The Catholic Church has elected a new pope. Does anything actually change? Let's face it, the Catholic Church has a bit of a PR problem. For decades, they've been stuck in a loop, a greatest hits of scandals, cover-ups, and apologies that ring hollow. They've mastered the art of saying, "We're sorry," without actually changing a thing. But here's the thing, we're not buying it anymore. The world is waking up. People are demanding better, and frankly, they deserve better. It's time to talk about the elephant in the room. The Catholic Church does not change regardless of who is elected to lead the church. Let's talk about accountability, or rather, the lack thereof. The church has a nasty habit of protecting its own, and by its own, we mean the powerful figures who wear the robes, not the vulnerable people they're supposed to serve. For years, the church has operated like a secret society, shielding abusers within its ranks. Priests accused of horrific violent acts weren't met with the long arm of the law. They were quietly shuffled between parishes. New congregation, same predator. It was like a sick game of musical chairs, and the victims? They were left to deal with the consequences. This wasn't just a few bad apples. This was a systemic pattern of cover-up, orchestrated at the highest levels of the church. They circled the wagons, protecting their own at all costs, and still do. When confronted with these horrifying allegations, the church's response was always the same: we'll handle it internally. These internal investigations were about as transparent as a brick wall. The Vatican, with its gilded ceilings and air of secrecy, became a fortress to protect the institution, not the victims. Documents were buried, testimonies were silenced, and justice was delayed again and again. The message was clear: don't come knocking, this is a private matter. But here's the thing, when it comes to protecting children, there's no such thing as a private matter. The church can't be trusted to police itself, because time and time again, they've shown whose side they're really on. For the survivors of abuse, justice has been a long and agonizing journey. They've had to fight tooth and nail for even the slightest bit of recognition, for someone to finally believe their stories. The church, with its vast wealth and resources, has thrown up roadblocks at every turn. They've hired powerful lawyers, stalled legal proceedings, and used their influence to silence victims. It's a classic case of David versus Goliath, except David is exhausted, traumatized, and still waiting for the apology they deserve. And Goliath? Goliath is still counting his money. This isn't about forgiveness, it's about accountability. And until the church stops protecting its abusers and starts demanding justice for its victims, the cycle of pain will continue. Let's talk branding. The Catholic Church, they're all about that morality hustle. They've got the market cornered on piety and righteousness. But behind those stained glass windows and perfectly timed incense puffs, there's a whole lot of hypocrisy going on. They preach about compassion and forgiveness from their gilded pulpits. They tell you to confess your sins, to seek redemption. Meanwhile, they've been sitting on a mountain of secrets so dark they make confession sound like a casual chat. The church built its empire on moral authority. They position themselves as the gatekeepers of right and wrong. But how can you trust an institution that preaches one thing and practices another? How can you be the moral compass when your own house is haunted by such darkness? Whenever the pressure mounts, whenever the scandals threaten to engulf them, the church pulls out its trusty weapon, the carefully worded statement of deep regret. They express sorrow, they offer prayers, they even shed a tear or two. But here's the kicker. They never seem to address the systemic rot within. They never admit to the deliberate cover-ups, the silencing of victims, the years of pain inflicted under their watch. It's a masterclass in avoiding accountability. They express regret for the mistakes that were made, but they never take responsibility for the system that allowed those mistakes to flourish. It's like apologizing for the rain while refusing to fix the leaky roof. It's all very convenient, wouldn't you say? Maybe, just maybe, an institution that claims to be the moral authority shouldn't have a global track record of abuse and cover-ups. They ask for your trust, your faith, your unwavering belief. But how can you offer any of that when they've given you every reason to doubt them? When they've shown time and time again that their priority is protecting their image, not the vulnerable people under their care? It's time to stop accepting their carefully crafted narratives. It's time to demand transparency, accountability, and real meaningful change. Because a new pope doesn't erase this shameful legacy, and no amount of incense can mask the stench of hypocrisy. You'd think an institution that's been around for centuries would have learned a thing or two about moving with the times. But alas, the Catholic Church seems to be stuck in a time warp, clinging to outdated beliefs like a security blanket. Let's talk about progress. That thing where society evolves, embraces new ideas, and recognizes the rights and humanity of all people? Yeah, the church isn't exactly known for being on board with that whole shindig. They're still clinging to the old playbook, the one where women are subservient, LGBTQ plus folks are condemned, and reproductive rights are, well, non-existent. It's almost comical, like watching your grandpa try to figure out how to use a smartphone. Except it's not funny because their antiquated views have real-world consequences. They preach about love and acceptance, but only if you fit into their narrow, predefined box. The church loves to throw around the word sin. They've got a whole laundry list of things they deem sinful, from premarital sex to questioning their authority. But here's a novel thought. Maybe, just maybe, the real sin is denying people their basic human rights. The church's stance on LGBTQ plus issues is particularly egregious. They preach about the sanctity of marriage but only recognize it between a man and a woman. They condemn LGBTQ plus individuals, telling them they're living in sin, that their love is wrong. It's a message of hate and exclusion, disguised as religious doctrine. And it's causing real harm to countless individuals who are simply trying to live their lives authentically. Let's be clear, this isn't about faith, it's about control. The church has built its empire on the backs of the faithful, using fear and guilt to keep them in line. They tell you you're born a sinner, that you need their guidance to find redemption. They preach about the afterlife, about heaven and hell, using the promise of eternal bliss and the threat of eternal damnation to control your every move. It's a brilliant strategy, really. Create a system where people are constantly seeking your approval, where they're terrified of stepping out of line. It's emotional manipulation disguised as spiritual guidance. The Catholic Church has perfected the art of making you feel bad about yourself. They've got a whole playbook of guilt tactics designed to keep you in line and coming back for more. The old born a sinner routine. You're flawed from the get-go, burdened with original sin. And only they can absolve you. It's a pretty sweet deal for them. They create the problem, then offer themselves as the solution. Need to unload your deepest, darkest secrets? Step right up to the confessional booth. It's like therapy, but with more judgment and a side of Hail Marys. Tell us your sins, my child, and we'll decide if you're worthy of forgiveness. The church knows how to push your emotional buttons. They've been doing it for centuries. They tap into your deepest fears, your insecurities, your longing for something bigger than yourself. They offer comfort and community, but at a price: obedience. Follow the rules, don't ask too many questions, and you'll be rewarded with eternal salvation. Step out of line and, well, let's just say you don't want to know what happens to sinners. It's all very manipulative, isn't it? They create a system of dependence, where you're constantly seeking their approval, their validation. Let's talk about fear. The church loves to use fear as a tool of control. They've got a whole arsenal of scary stories designed to keep you in check. Think about it. Hellfire and brimstone, eternal damnation, the devil lurking around every corner. It's enough to give anyone nightmares. And guess who's there to protect you from these terrifying fates? That's right, the church. They dangle the promise of heaven in front of you, but only if you play by their rules. It's a classic carrot and stick approach. Be good, get rewarded. Be bad, suffer the consequences. The Catholic Church, they know how to put on a show. It's all about spectacle and grandeur, designed to inspire awe and, let's be honest, a little bit of intimidation. The soaring cathedrals, the glittering robes, the Latin chants echoing through the halls. It's a sensory overload, meant to transport you to another realm, a realm where their authority reigns supreme. It's all very impressive, until you realize it's just a distraction. The more elaborate the ritual, the more it masks the lack of substance behind it. It's like they're trying to dazzle you with smoke and mirrors, hoping you won't notice the man behind the curtain pulling all the strings. They've got a ceremony for everything: baptisms, confirmations, weddings, and funerals. Each one meticulously choreographed, steeped in tradition, designed to evoke a sense of the sacred. And don't even get me started on the Pope-mobile. But here's the thing, real faith doesn't need all the bells and whistles. It doesn't need incense and Gregorian chants and gold-plated everything. It's about something deeper, something more meaningful than outward displays of piety. It's about compassion, forgiveness, and striving to be a better person. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult, even when it means challenging those in power. Speaking of those in power, let's talk about the church's favorite subject, money. They've got billions of it, folks. And where did all that wealth come from? Well, let's just say those collection plates haven't been emptying themselves. For an institution that preaches about humility and poverty, they sure do seem to enjoy the finer things in life. The Vatican is practically a museum, filled with priceless art and artifacts. And don't even get me started on the Pope's wardrobe. They claim to be stewards of God's money, but they've got a funny way of showing it. They've spent millions upon millions fighting lawsuits, silencing victims, and protecting their image. Where's the accountability? Where's the justice? Let's be crystal clear. A new pope doesn't equal a new church. It's like putting a fresh coat of paint on a crumbling building. Sure, it might look a bit shinier for a minute, but the foundation is still rotten to the core. They're really good at this game, you know. They trot out a new guy, all smiles and promises, hoping you'll forget about the decades of pain and cover-ups. But we're not falling for it anymore. We see right through the smoke and incense, the fancy robes and empty gestures. The Catholic Church is an institution built on power and control. They've spent centuries amassing wealth, silencing dissent, and protecting their own, no matter the cost. And until they're willing to dismantle that system, brick by rotten brick, nothing will truly change. So what can we do? How do we fight back against an institution that seems so entrenched, so untouchable? It starts with speaking out. No more whispers, no more hushed tones. We need to shout their hypocrisy from the rooftops. We need to amplify the voices of survivors. Believe them, support them, and fight for their right to justice. Hold the church accountable for its actions in courtrooms and in the court of public opinion. Don't let them guilt you into silence. Don't let them shame you into submission. Remember, true faith isn't about blind obedience. It's about asking tough questions, demanding better, and fighting for a more just and compassionate world. It's time to tear down the walls of secrecy and expose the truth. It's time to build a church that truly reflects the values of love, compassion, and justice. And if they're not willing to listen, well, maybe it's time to build a new table altogether. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Freethinker's Journey.